Hey, good morning, everybody. This is Travis Bull Johnson, your candidate for Congress in Minnesota's 7th District, coming to you with Independent is Power, episode number 9. Today, we're going to have a special guest. It's going to be our first guest, so it's going to be a little bit of a challenge for me on the technical side. But we're going to have Mark Lindquist joining us in a few minutes. He is actually on his way back to his home base, so he'll be able to sign in with us. For those of you who don't know, Mark was a former candidate for Congress in Minnesota's 7th District. He was one of my competitors. He initially planned to run it under the DFL, and eventually he switched to independent. Uh, but when everything kicked off in the Ukraine, he had this feeling, this calling, saying, "Okay, this is where you need to be." And Mark decided to answer that calling. He gave me a call a couple days before he announced, "Said, dude, I got good news and bad news for you. Good news is your path to Congress just got easier. The bad news is I'm shipping off to Ukraine." Uh, Kind of caught us by surprise, but we talked a little bit. We kind of talked through some of the logistics and legalities that were possibly involved, and and we've stayed in touch. I mean, Mark's just a great guy. To tell you what kind of guy he is, I mean, for his farewell at the VFW in Fargo, I went out there for his farewell. At his farewell, he's going around introducing me to everybody, and letting them know, hey, this guy is running for Congress. This guy is the man to look for when you come down to your ballot. He was doing this at his farewell. I mean, this was supposed to be about him, and even there, he wanted to make it about others. Uh, to me, that says quite a bit about Mark as a person. Just because this is who he is. Uh, I'm thrilled we're going to be able to have him on here today. He's coming in live from Ukraine. This will give you the people an opportunity to actually ask him your questions and go, hey, what's really going on there? I mean, a lot of people right now don't trust the mainstream media. They're forced to question all the information they get from anyone. This is going to be your chance to actually ask somebody who is on the ground, and he'll be able to share some of the success stories he's already had. He's already had a few instances that have really moved him, and I'm sure he'll tell you a little bit more about them. He's approaching this from a different concept than a lot of aid programs who are just basically send everything and they put them into little care packages and give them to everybody regardless of their needs. Mark is going out there and he's actually talking to people, finding out what individual needs are, and then he's sourcing what they need locally to get to them. They're in a part of Ukraine right now where they don't have an issue with getting resupplied, so it's not like it's empty and there's nothing there. It's more of a case of people have left everything behind of their homes and they're traveling with what they have on their backs or what they can carry. And sometimes when we're doing stuff like that, we don't think about some of the little things we're going to need. Like one thing he'll probably tell you about is a lot of the refugees, when they got to the refugee point, weren't taking showers because they didn't have shower shoes, and the floors in there were nasty. So they're like, no, I'm not doing that. Mark went out and bought a bunch of cheap pairs of sandals of shower shoes so they can get in there and take a shower. Um, he talked a little bit about the best way to support him, which is going to be actual cash donations. The reason is the dollar's extremely strong there. They have the stores open. He can actually go buy things cheaper on the local economy than we could buy them and send them to him, and no customs or anything like that. Uh, so he's so we're really looking forward to him and his visit. We've got a lot of things coming up on Independent as Power. We're in the process of setting up a special 420 episode where we're going to talk a little bit about cannabis legalization uh, and just overall war on drugs and how it has been just such a dismal failure and just enabled criminal elements to take that war on drugs and use it to build their empires. I mean, people don't realize when you go back to prohibition, one of the biggest people pushing prohibition or as a fan of prohibition was Al Capone. Why? Because it allowed him to expand his empire, his criminal empire. Uh, it was just funny because I mean I was reading something or watching something the other night that talked about how Al Capone was actually partnering up with some religious women's groups together to fight for prohibition, and this proves with politics sometimes you get some strange bedfellows. All too often, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, so to speak. Uh, so, uh, and Mark is definitely going to owe me for this for putting me on the on the stand for a little bit before he got here because I was not planning on him being late, and he just texted and say, "Hey, I'm 3 minutes out." Uh, so that's all what's going on. Meanwhile, I'll give you a quick update on our campaign. Our campaign is doing well. We've raised about $25,000 so far, which for an independent campaign at this stage of the game is not bad. We're getting ready to prep for our signature petition. We need to get at least 1,000 signatures within a 2-week period in the May, and in order to get on the ballot. I am partnering up with some other candidates who are also going to need to get signatures, and we're pretty much going to try to work for each other and spread the workload out a little bit because they really do try to make it harder for us to get on the ballot. I mean, for example, to sign our petition, you also have to sign saying that you will not participate in a primary for that office, which for me is okay because for our race, Republicans only have one candidate. There is no primary. The Democrats have not yet announced a candidate, and if they do, I'm sure it's only going to be one, so there's not going to be a primary on that side. So people are not going to have to give up their right to participate in the primary to support my petition. If I was running for governor, it'd be a completely different ballgame. If I was running for governor with 8 Republicans or plus Republicans in the race for see who's going to represent the GOP, nobody who's in the GOP would probably be willing to sign my petition simply because they wanted to vote in the primary. And when we have an area as conservative as ours, that would immediately cut out 60 to 70% of the people who were eligible to sign my petition that would be that are interested in politics enough to do so. And that can make it a real challenge. We're still a lot better than a lot of states. A lot of states you have to do actual percentages of the population. And in our case, with a district of 800,000 people, even if that's only 1%, that would be 8,000 signatures. And when they give you a short time period of doing it, I mean, it really makes it hard. I mean, they make it a lot harder than they have to give you a choice. I just read an article the other day about a Democratic candidate, and I believe it was Illinois, but I'm not sure. It's one of the other states. For Senate, in order to get on the ballot, they need X amount of total signatures, but then they need at least 100 signatures from each of the counties involved, which was a relatively high number of counties. In one county, they had 3 people who did not date their signature. The GOP brought it to court, had those 3 signatures thrown out because they did not have a date on them, so they weren't valid signatures. That brought her under 100 people in that particular county, and guess what? They kicked her off the ballot for a date, for not dating it. Okay, I mean this is the kind of petty stuff that they're doing to keep people from having an option. Again, and that's a big reason I'm running as an independent, because if we can win as an independent, we put our foot in that door and we show people, you know what, there is other options. Don't let them keep fooling you into thinking there's not. Hey, and there he is. How's it going, Mark?
Hey, brother, what's happening?
Oh, not bad, man. You owe me. I've had to sit here and BS for 15 minutes while waiting on you.
I'm so sorry about that.
So a lot of the stories you may tell, I may have already given them a little bit of hint about them.
I love it. Let me see if I can get some more light in here, brother.
All right, man.
There we go.
All right. For
That a
those
little
who
better?
don't know, this is Mark Lindquist, the former candidate for Congress here in Minnesota's 7th District, who decided, you know what, I've got a calling to do bigger and better things. And he's actually coming to us from Ukraine right now, where he's going to be able to tell you live. This is what's going on here. This is a true witness account. You don't trust the stories you're getting. Here's going to be your opportunity to actually ask somebody, hey, what is the real deal going on there? So I'll turn this over to Mark for a few minutes and let him highlight what he's doing.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate you. If those of you who don't know, Travis Bull Johnson, candidate for U.S. House of Representatives, is an Army veteran, and that's maybe that's how we first got connected as brothers before we were competitors. And so I just want to thank you, Travis, for being such an upstanding guy and just a big fan of yours. I don't know if you can see it in the chat there, but I put my name in as Mark J. Lindquist, fan of Travis Bull Johnson. So thank you. Okay, so here's the situation on the ground in Poland and what I've seen so far. Got here 2 weeks ago, landed in Warsaw. And really, when a lot of people come over here and the place is crawling with Westerners, a lot of people, they just want to help, right? And the answer everybody gives is, I don't care what I do, I just want to be of service. And that's really the right attitude. Of course, some people come over here and they've got all kinds of crazy ideas, but you'll end up linking up with the people who are of like mind. And so we formed a team of Americans and decided, well, we're going to get down to the border where the most need is. Let me back up a second. When we were in Warsaw on April 1st, I was shocked to see that Warsaw was almost devoid of refugees. I thought the place would be crawling with refugees at the main train center there in Warszawa Centralna, the main train station, but there was not. Not that there isn't need, but the Polish government had started to encourage people to head to points west. Because think about it, if 2.5 million people come across the border into Poland, that's a heavy lift for any country to be able to accept that many in the course of 6 weeks or so. So we moved on toward the border. We figured as we go east, the need will get greater. We were absolutely correct. We went to the border at a town called Przemyśl. If you're American, it looks like pretzel, P-R-Z-E-Y. Spelling. And so we went down to Przemyśl. That's the largest refugee center in Poland. And there, over 2 million refugees have passed through that, what is called the Medyka crossing, the largest border crossing in Poland from Ukraine. So that refugee center, we met with the director of that center. He's a Brit, and they're all there volunteering, doing whatever they can. A local shopping mall type center was donated, and that's where they've been housing anywhere from at its peak, 5,000 refugees. And then for a while, it was down from about 1,700 to 2,200 a night, sleeping in cots, one fist distance away from one another. Now, when I got there on the ground, probably about April 7th or 8th, I think it was, and they were doing about 1,200 a night at that shelter. Now it's down to about 500 or so from what I hear. So there's a great need there. To serve the refugees who are now finally have escaped to freedom. Now, what we've done recently is we've moved our logistical headquarters to Lviv because that is the central distribution hub for all the humanitarian aid headed to points east. So here we are, a group of Americans, Danish citizens, and Ukrainians all working together. And the team is growing by the day and week. And this is where we will be stationed to direct the right things to the right people at the right time. That's really the problem out here is, Travis, as you know, the logistical operation that the American military runs is far superior to most things on planet Earth. Stand by. Okay, yes. Sorry, that was our translator, our partner here in, oh, wait, stand by. I think he might need a key. Sorry about this.
These are the kind of technical delays you go through when you decide to do a live broadcast.
Yeah, so sorry about that. It's a logistic. Well, you just saw in action. It's a logistical madness over here, right? And so where was I? So now I'm the self-appointed logistical commander of this incident, and that's what we desperately need. So I guess I'll stop there and hand it back to you.
All right. Hey, we have had one question that has come in, and it is from Phyllis Lieb, Lieb. So to ask Mark, what is the safest way to send money to him for supplies, medicine, etc.? SD Auxiliary Unit 229 is wondering how we can support him. Phyllis Lieb, Secretary.
Thank you, Phyllis. I love you. I miss you. Please say hello to everybody back home. That's a hometown friend, a lifetime friend. So, Phyllis, the best way to do it is money, because the American dollar goes so far over here. So that's number one. Venmo or the GoFundMe is the best and direct way to do that. To give a layer of security or ability to refund, just peace of mind for folks. But what we're doing with that direct aid is directly passing it through supplies and requested items to the people. So $20, $25 matters, because we can get a suitcase for somebody whose belongings were previously in a plastic bag. $5 matters because we can get them shower sandals so that when they arrive at the refugee center in Shemesh, then they can shower. We're discovering other needs. Take simply, for example, just something maybe nobody else is thinking of in ways to serve these refugees. We were at the train station, main transit point out of Ukraine in Lviv today, and we were in the porta-johns, and there's no toilet paper. Nobody's thinking of those types of things. So we are supplying those porta-johns with toilet paper. Just a simple need, but how necessary is that step? I think very necessary. We are getting baby carriers, that strap to your chest so you can carry your baby hands-free, because now you have your life's belongings in tow, and now you have to have a kid on your hip, and you're trying to negotiate bags in that same hand, and then you have a suitcase you're rolling behind you. That's very difficult. A very simple solution to make the journey easier. If you're going to go out to Spain or France or Oslo or UK, that's a long trip yet, even if you make it to the Polish border. So we're trying to lighten the load and really solve specific problems that we see with our own eyes. Go to the local stores here in Lviv, which the shelves are full, and we can get those items and not feel like we're taking those items away from a local. So it's really that's our mission profile, is specific needs that we see with our own eyes or hear from our own team of network folks over here, and then sourcing those things locally because the dollar goes further over here, and then getting them into the hands of the people within 24 hours. That's our mission profile, and we're ramping it up.
Hey, can you tell them exactly what the GoFundMe page is, and Venmo address they should be sending the money to?
Right. The GoFundMe, easiest way to do it is just search for my last name, Lindquist, Lindquist. And so we're in the process of procuring a van on the Ukrainian side of the border, getting a Ukrainian driver's license, and being able to run that around town. And that will really empower us to do that. We couldn't do that until we found some Ukrainians that could help us navigate that process of purchasing a vehicle in a foreign country. So Venmo is the best. Search Venmo, Lindquist, you'll see my picture come up. The other way is Venmo is Asian Sensation 1981 is the Venmo. And in my Facebook thread, I have posted that a week ago, so you can find that there. So all the information that we're finding here, we're posting on Facebook because I want my friends, the people who know me best, to hear first. And the news has been spreading around the country.
Hey, Mark, a couple days ago, you had posted something about the young lady or girl who had been shot in the face. You mind sharing some of that story about what y'all did and how y'all accomplished that? And
it was really serendipitous. It was the very first time that I traveled to the border. I had a contact from the U.S. Marines, a veteran who had been a friend of a friend, who connected the both of us, and we ended up meeting down there in Shemesh. We had a little, pre-op plan before we went, and then he was going to escort us to the border and just show us the ropes, right? I'd never been to the border. I'd never crossed into Ukraine through customs, and so he had done that for the past few weeks, and that's what's happening out here is helpers are helping helpers, right? And so if you're here with a good heart and a good intention to do so, people are more than willing to show you the ropes, because most people can only be here for 1 or 2 weeks at a time, using their vacation time to come over here and serve in Poland, which Poland, very safe, NATO country. There's almost no danger there, no more danger than if you were to walk downtown in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. So relatively speaking. So what we did there is we got down to the border. It was the first day there. It was becoming night. And what the volunteers are doing is they're just simply carrying bags for the mothers who, like I just explained, have so many bags in tow. We were over on the Ukrainian side, about ready to pass back. We would have stood on the other side of the border and helped carry the bags. But a car pulled up, Cadillac, and we all kind of looked at it because we hadn't seen a Cadillac around here lately. And so that was of interest to us. And then, of course, we saw a woman get out of the car. She tried to communicate with us in Ukrainian. We could not. We tried to let her use Google Translate, but by then she had talked to a local. And then all she wanted to know was where the border crossing was. In the meantime, we asked if we could help with her bags, of which there were many. There were 10 bags, because all of us had 2 bags in our hand. There were 5 Americans there to help. Thank goodness there were 5 Americans so that we could grab them all. Halfway across the border between Poland and Ukraine, I had built a rapport with the young woman, 11 years old, through Google Translate. The first thing I said to her was I complimented her hat. It was like a stocking hat, kind of bedazzled with jewels, and there were sunglasses on it. And through Google Translate, I had Google Translate read to her, "I like your hat." And she smiled and she said, "Thank you." We continued that rapport back and forth. I was just complimenting her on different things, asking her simple questions, trying to build some trust and make the journey across the border peaceful for her, right? I'm a smiling face. I love kids. So it worked out. So after building that rapport through Google Translate, the mother felt comfortable enough to show me her cell phone. On the cell phone was a CNN story with her daughter's picture on it. And we read the headline, and that was the 11-year-old girl who got shot by the Russians while fleeing Mariupol. The girl that is known the world over because her story was told by CNN. We were all in shock. None of us, all 5 of us, kind of didn't know what to think of it. It was overwhelming to think that the girl that was in that story was standing right in front of us, sitting in the wheelchair that we had procured to allow the girl to rest as we crossed the half mile to Poland. So all of us are kind of quietly looking back and forth at each other saying, "Oh my goodness, this is unbelievable that this is the girl that we have seen on the news." We didn't communicate a whole lot more about it because we just didn't want to be rude. We didn't want to make her into a zoo animal. And we just tried to stay respectful, as I hope most people would. We continued to talk back and forth. My American veteran friends asked the mother, Elena, and her name has been in the news. So we don't feel that there's any more danger to talk about Elena. And we asked her if she needed help, and we kept asking, do you need a SIM card? Do you need money? Do you have a plan? Do you have a good place to stay? Do you have a ride? How can we help? And halfway through those questions, she says, no. And she was able to communicate through Google Translate that her husband, the girl's father, was waiting on the Polish side of the border. We say our goodbyes after we crossed into Poland. We hugged. And of course, we didn't take any pictures because that's just not appropriate, right? We did take a few pictures from the rear for, not to show her face. And my American veteran Marine friend handed an envelope stacked full of cash in Polish currency to help her on her way. Because a lot of these Ukrainians, the average income is about $300 USD a month. And so a little cash is the best way to allow these adults who are fully capable to solve problems on their own instead of thinking that they're, helpless, right? So my Marine buddy, Derek, handed her an envelope full of cash and we took off. And then on the way back to the car, because our day was over, it was late at night. On the way back to the car, we all just kind of realized, oh my goodness, we might be the only 5 Westerners who know that little girl got out alive. And so we reached out to our media contacts and let them know. The Daily Caller did a feature story on it, exclusive. And the boots on the ground reporter who was in the country ended up publishing a story about it. And now the world knows. And so that was just one unbelievable success story about a very simple thing that we did that many people could have done, carried bags. But it just so happened that we were the ones there and then able to announce it to the world that she's safe.
Is there anything there that surprised you from what your preconceived notions on what it was going to be like there?
There at the border or here in country?
There in country and in the border for that matter.
Well, like I said, the status of the operation and the flow of people. I mean, I was a few weeks too late to see and witness the influx of refugees as it was described to me by the director of the humanitarian aid at the train center in Lviv. It was a river of humanity for a few weeks. Today, even yet today, there's 30,000 people crossing that border every single day, 15 trains of 2,000 people apiece. That at its peak was more like 100,000 a day for a few weeks. And so you'll see pictures, masses of humanity, just like we remember the black and white photos of the 1940s. People absolutely shoulder to shoulder, 6 inches away from one another, waiting on train platforms for days on end for them to get on the train. So it did shock me, first of all, that the people flow was down. The other thing that shocked me, and I'm gonna cite my ignorance here, is that I didn't know anything about Ukraine before this conflict. You know, yes, we've traveled the world as military veterans, but I just had never been to Ukraine. I'd never been to Poland, and so obviously we know and have heard that this is a modern society. This is a society that enjoys freedom just as we do. And I think the thing that I want to communicate to people is that these people could just as easily be your best friend as somebody that grew up in Western Minnesota, right? These people are just as human as you and I and deserve freedom just as much as you and I. And just because their neighbor is a huge jerk doesn't mean that they don't deserve freedom, right? And so if I were to live here in Lviv and take up residency or get a job, I don't think it would be much different at all other than the language than if I were to live in an American city. And so I think, then maybe you could give some insight on this, Travis, is that I think often Americans are conditioned when we are involved in a conflict that area or region that we are involved in, think Afghanistan, think Iraq, right, is for lack of a better, like a third world country, right? It is not. This is a place where freedom has claimed territory, and it is called the country of Ukraine. And Russia is trying to take that back and take freedom away from a country on earth, of which half of the countries on earth have democracy, as the Ukrainian citizens do. It's one of the oldest constitutions in the world, the Ukrainian Constitution. And I just want people back home to know that these people are far more similar to us than we think. Now, that is not to discount the plight of other people on planet Earth, but it is, in my mind, a significant instance where we're dealing with NATO, we're dealing with nukes, we're dealing with a dictator that's unpredictable, with incredible power, but also we're dealing with a place where freedom has already taken that territory and it is now being threatened. That's the difference here.
Well, I mean, and that goes to a problem with or an issue with Americans as a whole. I mean, we're in such a great country. We don't leave. We get here, we stay here. We don't go out and travel the world. A friend of mine told me a joke once. Said, "Hey, what do you call somebody who speaks 2 languages? Bilingual. What do you call somebody who speaks 3? Trilingual. What do you call somebody who speaks 1? An American."
Yes,
okay.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
I mean, there is a certain truth to that, and
So
you know what?
true.
I was lucky. I mean, my last 10 years in the military, I basically traveled and lived all over the world. You know, I did time in Korea, Lisbon, Portugal, which was a great experience.
Yeah, yeah,
Amman, Jordan, right in the heart of the Middle East, and it
yeah.
allowed me to see, to experience the different cultures. And I'll be honest, after being gone that many years out of my last 10 years, when I got back to the States, I almost felt uncomfortable. It
Yeah.
almost felt like the U.S. was the foreign state because I had to take it all in and reintegrate, so to speak.
Yeah.
But I think it's real easy to discount the humanity when all you see is pictures. when you're not on the ground and
Ooh,
you're not witnessing it firsthand. So,
I'll
what
say
do
that
you think on
again
that?
for you. It's easy to discount the humanity when all you see is pictures. What a brilliant, well articulated thought. I totally agree. And then once you meet people from around the world and you travel enough, as you and I have, I've been so fortunate in my life to travel to, well, 38, 40 countries or so, every state in the country multiple times. And once you realize that people are people, maybe some of the hatred and judgment and stereotypical behavior and prejudice would be removed. And I think that's also my story. I came from Seoul, South Korea, was started out life in an orphanage, and I don't look like anybody in Western Minnesota. There's only about 1.1% Asian in Western Minnesota, or Minnesota in general. I don't know what that stat is, but it's a very small population, and so I don't look like any of the other Minnesotans that I'm usually with. And so I just think that's a lesson that we could all teach ourselves or remind ourselves, is that you can come from anywhere and live a wonderful life, want freedom, enjoy the fruits of freedom, enjoy the benefits of freedom and free enterprise and capitalism, and build a life for yourself and your family and the dreams that you want. And doesn't every human being on earth deserve such a thing? I was given that gift of freedom at the age of 8 months, exactly 40 years ago to this month. In this cause in Ukraine, I think a lot of us veterans, and I know that you have as well, you and I have talked about that before, Travis, is that we feel this calling to this cause of freedom in Ukraine because it is similar to ours. It is similar to Marquis de Lafayette, who was a Frenchman and an aristocrat and rich, and was a major general in the Revolutionary War. Marquis de Lafayette sailed across the Atlantic Ocean and fought in our Revolutionary War. Now, that was a foreigner who didn't have to do that. I am seeing and meeting foreigners from all over the world, especially from America, who are following the footsteps of that legend, Marquis de Lafayette. And that's, I think that's a beautiful thing. And for us to not to forget how history has unfolded throughout the course of it, and give back to those who deserve freedom as much as us.
Well, and the other lesson I think people need to learn from this is a country's people is not their government.
Ooh, yes, another well said thing. Say that again.
It basically just said a country's people are not the government. You can hate the government of Russia without hating the people of Russia. I mean, we're seeing
Yes.
all kind of hate crimes across the country right now. For I mean, the people who own Russian restaurants, you know, they have nothing to do with the what's going
No,
on over there. Okay, uh,
no.
a lot of people have questions with the Ukrainian government. So you know what? Even if you have issues with the Ukrainian government, what you may suspect or whatever, that has nothing to do with the people who are being bombed out of their houses. That has
Yes.
nothing to do with the civilians that were killed at a train station this past week. I mean that's where I think we need to a lot of times keep some of our focus, because we let politics play too much with our heart. We
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's one of the things I love about us, Mark. I mean, we can get on here and we've got some different ideological views, but you know what? We see each other for who we are.
Yeah.
I mean, we both know, you know what? We both love this country. We both have know where we want to go with it. And you know what? Policy wise, we might have some different ways to get there, but it's both with the idea of improving and strengthening our country.
Yes.
Uh, and that's a lesson I'd like a lot of people to take out of this. I mean, the you sent me the tweet from the reporter from the Washington Post from the press release that we sent about you going over there and talking about the missed opportunities we had of being able to campaign together and just putting our ideas out there and letting people choose.
Yeah.
Uh, Her reaction was like, "Whoa, look at this!" Like, I mean, it just it surprised them that political competitors can have this type of friendship and relationship.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, and it shouldn't. I mean, that's kind of what bothers me is the fact that this is so surprising, so newsworthy to people, but there's no reason for it. I mean, this is how it should be. a battle of ideas, not a battle of people, because that's what it is.
Exactly.
That's what politics actually should be: is a battle of ideas, not personalities, not people. Uh, Mark Lister just put, we all want the same things: safe place to live, raise healthy children, and grow. You can only grow with peace and not war.
You
Uh,
said it. You said it, Mark, and you got a great name, Mark.
so,
And
yeah,
Travis, if I may jump in there for a second, I just want to compliment you. Travis Bull Johnson is a guy who puts being an American before being a member of any particular ideology, and that's what attracted me first to Travis. Now, remember, he and I were competitors, right? But it did not matter that we maybe, like you said, have some different ideological values or policy ideas. No. He and I are an American first, a veteran second, and a lover of this country and freedom overall. And so I just want to tip my hat to you, Travis, for being an individual who's doing something as big as running for Congress. Do you know the cojones it takes to run for Congress? Oh, I do. And so hats off to you, sir, for doing this in a way that I think all of us finally, we all have been yearning for a candidate, and many candidates across the country, to finally come to the public square and do this right. Everybody knows that the political system is just broken and full of bad actors. Travis Johnson is a guy who is doing it right, being an American first and finding common ground and working on that. Once the common ground is established, then I know how you think, Travis. Then it's time to build something on top of that. Have the first agreement first, freedom, American, and for those values, and then upon that foundation, build the second agreement and the third agreement and the fourth. And that's what I see Travis Bull Johnson doing, is finally doing it the right way. So thank you.
and you speak about that in your book when you announced how you were going to run for Congress. The first thing you were interested in was building that first set of agreements. Mark did another comment on here, and elephants and asses now screwing the masses.
Mark, I'm going to screenshot that one.
So I figured you might like that one, man.
That is good stuff, my friend. You know,
Now,
because I just think everybody is in the same boat these days when it comes to politics. I think we're all so sick of the hyper partisanship, right? I put this hat on because this is what joins you and I, right? We are veterans of the United States military, and that's where you and I started. And who would you want to serve the country other than somebody who has already served the country and risked his own life for freedom? That's somebody who is putting his money where his mouth is and his safety where his words are. I don't know if that's a phrase. That's not as catchy as money is where his mouth is. You see what I'm saying? Like, I think that if I have any desire in this upcoming election, it is to throw the support that I have, if I had any, your way, because I just believe that you will represent us very well.
thank you, brother. I will consider that an endorsement.
No, official endorsement. If you roll it out however you want, I'll try to make it as big as possible. Mark J. Lindquist, former candidate for House, got out of the way and allowed another veteran to serve you. His name is Travis Bull Johnson. Endorsement stamped.
Hey, we got another question that came in. What are your thoughts on dissolving NATO, being an isolationist nation, cooperation with allies?
Oh, Luke, as we say in the military, that's above my pay grade. Okay. I wouldn't even have a comment, to be honest. I mean, I understand that this situation has a lot of moving parts, and there are things at play, NATO being one of them, UN, EU, nukes, Putin, etc., that are once again above my pay grade. I'm just a citizen who wants to help Ukrainians, and we'll let that up to the as I heard from a local Ukrainian yesterday, God save the Queen and Grandpa Joe, right? Just because, for the simple fact that they're adults, right? And that's what we need right now.
I like so part of course, I've got a libertarian background, and one of the things we talk about as libertarians are voluntarists. Let the people do it instead of the government. And Brian came back with this comment. Brian Handeland. We should be taxing people to support policy X overseas. I can't do it myself. Mark, hold my beer.
Wait. We should be taxing people to support policy X overseas. I can't do it myself.
I mean, what you're doing speaks so much about what the libertarians' policy is of individuals doing doing it instead of government because they do it more efficiently. Uh, tell tell me a little bit more about earlier you were talking about how you're doing humanitarian relief a little bit different than the big guys who are just kind of bringing in stuff by the cargo, throwing care packages, and throwing it to anybody whether they need it or not. Tell us a little bit about how you're doing it different.
So the boots on the ground assessment of the humanitarian response globally is, I would give it a D, maybe a D plus, C minus at the very best. Here's why. As you walk across the border from Poland to Ukraine, if you can visualize, I mean, think about crossing into the Canadian border into Winnipeg. It's no different. It's a large border crossing where there are customs stations and maybe not as wide, but certainly a serious border crossing. You walk up to the Polish border customs where you're crossing into the green zone in between Poland and Ukraine. On the Polish side, there are tents upon tents upon tents, huge, the tents that you would see at like Lollapalooza or a music festival. And one of the Marine escort that helped me over there, he described it to me before we got there. It's going to look like Burning Man. It's going to look like Coachella. And it's crazy. And sure enough, it does. It's tents and they're giving out stuff. And that's all wonderful and good. You cross 300 yards to the Ukrainian border and you get over into Ukraine. And there's nothing, not a soul, not a tent. I can't explain why. But here's the frustration. You got UNICEF over there. You got Red Cross. You got these major organizations that have been asking for donations at these celebrity concerts, and everybody raises $100 million for the Red Cross. And let me tell you, my experience with the Red Cross has been nothing but wonderful in my life. As an AmeriCorps volunteer, we were at the ground zero at the Pentagon after 9/11, and we wore American Red Cross vests. I've been American Red Cross certified. I've given money to UNICEF and these major NGOs. But here on the ground, Mark J. Lindquist says, don't give your money to those people. Here's why. Because 10 days ago, a baby died at the border, because at the border overnight, if you're standing in line for 12 hours, it's 35 degrees, it's 27 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's cold and it's windy and it's raining. And people back home are complaining about the snowstorm. Well, let me tell you, what if you had to stand outside for 12 hours during that snowstorm? I was walking through Lviv yesterday and there were snowflakes in the air. It's the same temperature and climate as what we experience in Minnesota. It's cold. It's still winter here. So a baby died due to exposure 10 days ago at the border. And then I had heard the previous days, there were other people that froze to death waiting in line. Can you imagine escaping a war zone, getting across the state of Texas? That's the distance. Finally making it after 3 or 4 days of grueling travel. And then you finally make it 300 yards away from freedom, and then you die. Can you imagine that? That is unbelievable. So humanitarian response, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast, but that's bullshit. Complete bullshit. You're letting someone die 300 yards away from you due to exposure, and you're there with a humanitarian tent there? No, the only way that these problems are going to get solved is to give the money to people who are on the ground and are willing to go solve that problem individually, because they're not doing it. The only one over here who's worth a damn is the World Hunger Kitchen. They're actually feeding people. I, Mark J. Lindquist, had to fly across the Atlantic, hear about that problem, about the baby at the border and people freezing. I then looked at the weather map and I said, oh my God, this was 7 or 8 days ago, for the next 30 days, it's going to be down to in the 30s overnight. If the wind blows, now it's down into the 20s. We know wind chill, right? Some days we're going to have rain and snow those nights. Some days we're going to be okay. But for the next 30 days, people were going to freeze to death. So what did I do? I took some of the money that we had raised. I ordered 1,200 emergency blankets, all that I could find on the suppliers, to get it over here in time. We delivered those emergency blankets from an Army vet who got it to the border the night that it was going to be again 35 degrees at night. We might have saved lives. So why should an American have to fly across the ocean and deliver those blankets to the people when you got humanitarian tents 300 yards away. So that's why I'm pretty pissed at these major NGOs who say that they're helping. My boots on the ground assessment is that right there at the border specifically, they're not.
Hey, we have another question came in. This one from Alicia Hardiman. What feeling have you gotten from the people on the ground? Are there people in support of this invasion?
In support of this invasion? No.
Because, of course, you know, that's what the Russian story is that they're coming to free the people.
Oh, well, I mean, every Ukrainian, like every American knows that that's complete garbage. It's propaganda, right? And so the Ukrainians are united. We've got word of people quitting their jobs because their bosses are, Russian sympathizers, or too friendly to the cause. Over here in Ukraine, we are as united against a common enemy as anybody. So sorry if I'm a little feisty about that assertion, but if anybody is being told that the Ukrainians are Nazis, if anybody is being told that there's support for this invasion here, they're talking to the wrong people, or at least not the people that I've been talking to. Slava Ukraini, Heronium Slava, glory to Ukraine, glory to the heroes is all you hear around here. Everybody's united. No, we are standing united against this in every way.
Hey, Luke's got another question. He asks, where do you get your blankets?
I ordered them on Amazon, and right now all the necessary items, the most crucial items, they're running in short supply around the world. So one way that people could help is find me on Facebook and shoot me a message, shoot me an email, whatever. Get in touch with me somehow. You can get in touch with Travis, and he can connect us. If you find supplies of these things, we will raise more money to purchase them. I don't care if it takes 2 weeks to get them. Maybe emergency blankets won't be needed in 2 weeks because the weather is warming, but other supplies are needed. We need to order those now so that they can get to my P.O. box in Warsaw. So my driver from Warsaw can take it from Warsaw to the border. We've got a driver. We're buying a vehicle. We're getting it from the border to Lviv and getting it out to the people we need. So if you can find these things that I post on Facebook in the requested items needs list, please ship them to the P.O. box and we'll pick them up. We'll sort them. We'll get them to the people that need it. Emergency blankets. We need old cell phones, right? Like even the flip phones. If you got a flip phone with a charger back home, send it, right? Because those, unlike smartphones, are not able to be tracked. So as we have tried to rescue, well, we did from Sumy. If you Google Sumy, it's right on the Russian border out east, just straight east of Kyiv. There's a family that we were in touch with. We got a request. Partners of mine over here that run security detail. They went out there and rescued them, 2 women and 2 children. We just got the first picture of them today. They took them in 2 vehicles over to Kyiv. They stayed a night. They're coming to Lviv again. We're lodging them tonight. And then tomorrow, my driver that we've hooked up is going to take that family over to Warsaw. And so those are the kinds of things that we're doing over here, really helping people, especially those that need to get out.
So overall, do you have any second thoughts about your decision to go there?
No, this it's kind of probably, as we've talked about our military service, Travis, is that it's the same calling you feel when you decide to enlist, right? It's the same feeling you go through before you decide to raise your right hand and serve the country at great risk to yourself. That's the feeling that I've gotten, and the feeling that I got when I was processing the decision whether or not to go here. It's undeniable. And you have told me individually, you would like to be here right alongside me. But that's not, nobody has to have the same calling as others, right? Your calling is to serve in Congress, and I'm behind you 100%. My calling at this time is to serve over here. I hope people are behind me 100%, and they have been thus far, and it's been wonderful. And so it's that feeling. It's that feeling that you have to go, because not everybody in the American population serves. In fact, 1% at any given time, right? 18 to 20 million veterans, 1 to 2 million active in reserve. Not everybody is called to serve, but if you are, you have to go. Not everybody goes to Afghanistan. No, you went to Jordan, right? Not everybody goes over there and helps. But if you're called, sign me up, right?
All right, Mark. Do you have any parting words or thoughts? You want to give us the Venmo and the Fund Me site again, so people can.
Thank you.
Can send help your way.
Thank you for that. And like I said, money is the easiest way to help, because we, those donations are as close to zero overhead, save for the 2.9% fee of the processing, as possible. Apple Pay is actually a very low fee. Anyway, Venmo is Asian Sensation 1981. It's on my Facebook page. And the GoFundMe is just search Lindquist, and get us some more cash over here so we can buy some more van loads of supplies of things that are available in the local market, making your American dollar and donation go 2 or 3 times further than it would in America.
Yeah, and we also have this information on the scroll on the bottom of the page. So I do encourage you to help support Mark. I mean, what he's doing there, he's getting so much more bang for your buck than our tax dollars are doing.
Yeah,
and money to the big NGOs are doing. I mean, and he's going out there and he's addressing specific needs.
Yeah,
that's one of the things I love about with what he's doing is he's not providing a lot of things that aren't needed, that aren't even wanted. Not everybody's going to need a toothbrush and toothpaste, but he's addressing specific things like what we talked about earlier, the flip flops, so they're comfortable in taking the shower in those conditions. I mean, having been deployed multiple times, I mean, those kind of like showers and stuff like that, I mean, they get nasty. Okay, so I definitely understand. Yeah, I definitely understand where they're coming from this.
If I might share one last story, Travis, are we running out of time?
No, it's up. We have as much time as you need, man.
I think this maybe will give people a more full assessment of what's happening over here. So everybody wants to donate something, and they feel good when they donate something. The things that I thought of when I was in America was, they need diapers, right? And so I just guessed at that need. And so I thought that would be, on the list. Well, they got more than enough diapers because everybody thinks of that. Here's what's happening. The world is responding with a humanitarian response, and I'm talking pallets of supplies from companies, from wealthy people, from everybody around the world. All of that humanitarian aid is flowing into a site called Lublin. It is a major warehouse in Poland. And picture like a big loading dock. They got 7 loading docks, and trucks are headed out of there every day. Dozens and dozens, might even be hundreds of trucks that are leaving for Ukraine every day out of that major warehouse processing center. So a pallet comes in, it is labeled, sorted into 9 different categories, of which are clothing and medical supplies and food and toiletries and other items. 9 categories that's labeled on the outside. This is what this pallet is. Then it goes out to where a request was made. Here is the fatal flaw. At that processing center, there isn't enough personnel. There's not enough people power. So they're not sorting those down and breaking down the pallets, finding out what's inside, and then shipping them individually. They're shipping them in lorries, their version of a semi-truck, 18-wheeler, a little smaller. They're shipping them pallets at a time. And here's the breakdown. Since there's only 9 categories and they don't have time to sort them individually, there was a request out east for 20 potty training toilets. The ones with the little dish? And so, of course, it doesn't matter if there's a war going on, you don't want your child to regress when they're in potty training, right? And so we need some of those because these people have been displaced. They maybe didn't take their potty training toilet with them when they fled the war zone, right? So we got the request for 20 potty training toilets. Now, ironically, those potty training toilets on the outside were labeled toiletries. So you might have requested shampoo and soap and laundry detergent and real toiletries and be expecting that to come in. Under the toiletries might have been feminine hygiene products, things that you need, right? But instead of those types of toiletries, they got those potty toilets. Another such example is and I don't know if this happened, but let's say a pickle company. This is the example that was given to me. Let's say a pickle company decides to donate a pallet of pickles. Well, that is labeled food. So you're looking for real calories and real nutrition in a time where the greatest threat in many cities in Ukraine is not death by missile, it's death by starvation, now that it's 7 weeks in. So the supply chains are not running. We in America experienced that during the pandemic, and how much we freaked out when the shelves started to empty. Think about what's happening out there. So they sent a pallet of food out to the place where there was requested food, and they got pickles. Of course, that's fine. We can eat pickles, but it's not what you were looking for. You see where the left hand is not doing what the right should be doing? You know what I'm saying? There's some disconnect. And so the only way we've decided to solve the problems with the resources we have, I'm not a big NGO. I don't have multi-million dollars behind me, corporate sponsors. I'm just a dude. I'm just a guy trying to help. So the best way we can do it is get specific requests from inside the country, right? Within 24 hours, source that material locally because the shelves are full here. Within that 24 to 48 hours, we send the van with the driver that we have hired out there to deliver that and hand deliver it, take a picture of the supplies. People know that it got there. And we can do these things one community at a time, one family at a time, with the resources that we're being given. All we need is more money to be able to hire more drivers and get more vans to do that to help more people. That's how we're solving problems and circumventing the whole red tape BS.
Well, I mean, and that's what we need to do. I mean, that's the power of individuals, and almost like the name of the show, independent is power, because when you don't have that red tape to cut through, you can get straight to the source to fix it. Luke, we will leave Mark's contact information on the comments for the video. He did say, thank you, Mark. Our hearts go out to all who cannot live in peace. You are doing something about it. Sue Johnson Kubik, stay safe, buddy. You're doing the work of angels.
Hold on, guys. I got one last thing to show you before I go. Something a little bit of home here. All right. So everybody here, a lot of my friends are from Fargo, Moorhead, Red River Valley. I've spent half of my life living in Fargo and Moorhead. Went to college up there out of high school, and so you know how it is when you go off to these locations, Travis. You bring a little bit of home to remind you what you're fighting for. So I would just like to represent the Fargo Moorhead Red Hawks. I would like to represent our Happy Hooligans, our Air National Guard unit out there, and of course. Sue, yeah, Sue.
Well, hey, Mark, I thank you for joining us from out there, and I'm hoping this helps spread the word about what's going on with you, because it's a mission that we should all support. You need anything else from us, let us know. I mean, we're going to keep pushing your message out. If you get time, if you could take your need list, if you want to post it below the video later, you can let people know, hey, this is what we're looking for. That would hopefully help people get you the information. And you have any last words?
Slava Ukraini. Heronium Slava.
Well, thank you again, Mark. Thank everybody for joining us. This will conclude this episode of Independent is Power. Again, joining me, Mark Lindquist, former candidate for Congress who is currently in the Ukraine. And thank you all for joining in. And please remember to come visit us on our website, bulljohnsonforcongress.us. Come see us. Join us on Facebook, Travis Bull Johnson for Congress. We appreciate any support you can give us. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great day.